What's going on, everybody, and welcome to the Other Side of the Firewall podcast, where it's about the latest and greatest of cybersecurity news, as well as we highlight those movers and shakers and glass ceiling breakers. As people of color have made it to the other side of the proverbial firewall. My name is Ryan Williams, and as always, I'm joined by Shannon Tynes.
What's up? What's up?
What's going on? So welcome to Wednesday's episode, there we go, of the podcast. So Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays, Ask CSSP. We won't have any else for a few weeks. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, all that cool stuff. But without further ado, I give it to Shannon.
All right, everybody. So this article comes from GJSentinel.com, and that's the Grand Junction Daily Sentinel, written by Dan West. And the title of this one was Local Cybersecurity Experts Seeing Rise in Government Data for Sale Online, right? So the fact that there's a rise in it, I can 100% see that being the case, right? Like when it comes to geopolitical affairs and things that are going on out there in the world, I can 100% see the government being a target for trying to infiltrate or get things out there. And we've seen it to where sometimes it's been made easier, right, to have that information out there by using possibly unsecure apps for official functions, things of that nature, right? But what they're talking about here, right? So Curtis Minder is the guy's name, and he's the CEO of cybersecurity firm GroupSense. And he's talking about him seeing an increase in initial access to government networks, government systems, trading, dumping classified information being out there. Like, it's not like it's something new, but what he's talking about is seeing an uptick in it, right? So like we've seen stuff that's like from WikiLeaks, we've seen the Snowden stuff, right? Like where you have somebody that's considered a bad actor just putting stuff out there, but you're seeing it more and more, right? And I think again, because of what's going out there in the world, there's an uptick in these types of things, right? The dark web is out there just having this data for sale for everyone, right? We didn't bring it up this week, but you have, what was it, 198 million people affected by that big breach they had, like with passwords and whatnot. They talked
Right.
about, yeah, I think it was 198 million, or I think was the number they gave. But I can 100% see the government being like one of the bigger targets out there because of what is going on, whether it be different things that are being said by the administration, different things that are going on to where they may just want to halt certain things or just find different things out, right? Like we talked about it in the past, and it's one of those things that's a reality about different countries wanting to know what is going on in the United States government to get a better foothold on intellectual property, things of that nature, right? Because it may not be necessarily that they're going after Boeing or Lockheed or one of these defense contractors. It could be easier to just find that one whale that's going to give up the information out there, but it's out there, folks, right? And Minder, the CEO here, he talks about how he hasn't gone through and counted it up, but he says it's several times the normal volume, right? And he talks about how it comes in waves. He's like, there's a wave where you see it a lot, and then it's like kind of feast or famine is kind of how he's describing it. But I think it's one of those things where if you work in the federal government, like I say we, right? Being an employee of the federal government, we know what needs to be done and what should not be done, right? Sometimes it's unavoidable. Sometimes you're using a technology that just, it gets exposed somehow. There's a 0 day or an environment is not as secure as it needs to be. But I can almost guarantee you the majority of this is someone just putting the information out there, right? Whether it be through phishing or, like I mentioned before, using an unsecured app for government means, just putting stuff out there that doesn't need to be put out there, right? Because again, social media is one of those things, and I teach this in the classes that I do. Social media is one of those things where you have to be careful what you are putting out there, right? Because a lot of information can be inferred from what you put on your, and this is the thing, LinkedIn is social media, right? People, I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say, well, it's LinkedIn. I'm like, LinkedIn is social media. It counts. You know what I mean? Like, don't assume because you're not putting pictures of your family up there that information cannot be gleaned from that, right? So like I have a whole slide where I talk on it and foot stomp on it, right? Like, hey, it is, LinkedIn is social media. Do not put certain information out there based off what we do. But yeah, when it comes to defense related data access, it's gotta be shut down to the greatest extent possible, because this can have truly adverse effects, right? Because especially when it comes to the Department of Defense, what they're doing with certain weapons that may or may not be public yet, if that information just gets out there, like you have to realize the amount of money and the amount of time that's been invested into that could be, that could be just wasted. This isn't like a Sony leak, right? Like Sony having their next movie or whatever leaked out there. It's not the same, right? This is the Department of Defense and what they do. But yeah, there's an uptick in it. And the CEO of GroupSense is like, hey, we got to be better. So, and I agree. But what's your thoughts on this one?
So I lost my voice there for a second. I believe that some of it may be cyber hygiene, right? You have a bunch of people um, in leadership positions that don't necessarily care about uh, the way that they communicate with one another and share information, things of that nature, right? And unsecure means, we've talked about that in previous episodes. I think overwhelmingly, that it's because they laid off almost 300,000 people in very recent times, right? The Department of Government Efficiency let go of over 280,000 federal workers. They created a bunch of insider threats. Just saying that. Not saying that you should be leaking information or anything like that. Like, you sign DAs, you have ethical and moral obligations, right, to protect that information, to protect your nation. But if you have an influx of people abruptly being terminated from their positions, whether it be because their contract was terminated or because they were laid off or furloughed or whatever from government work, you're gonna have a few bitter apples in there, right? And you're just compounding it with the just chaos and churning these people out, right? People don't know if they're going to work, if they're not going to work. So the people are acting within the moment, just as they don't understand what's going on. The government is saying, like, we don't understand where all this information is coming from. Yeah, these people are pissed and they're leaking information like a ship with multiple holes in it, right? Like, they're letting this stuff go. Like, first, if you're going to terminate people, you should have a robust termination policy to offboard these people, which they're just kind of cutting as they see fit. But also, you should have better cyber hygiene, right? They should be able to exfiltrate this data, things of that nature, or drop malicious code. So when HUD had their massive layoff, it's like their airline, a layover. When they had their massive layoff, they had that cyber incident immediately after. Remember, they had the screensavers and wallpapers that had the president and Elon like giving each other massages or something weird. But it was like immediately after, like somebody had built this looping video using AI and dumped it in the system. Like, they were mad, right? You're making a lot of people very upset and wondering why you're hemorrhaging information left and right. It just doesn't make sense. You should have done this better. People should not be leaking information. Don't get me wrong. Like, I'm not a proponent for that whatsoever. Like, we've had top secret clearances since we were teenagers, right? That you're supposed to, like, it should be kind of ingrained in you to not do what they're doing because of not only because it would make you a bad person, but also because it could put you in prison. But if you terminate over 250,000 people almost at once, this is going to happen to you.
You actually went a direction I didn't think you were going to do. So when you were like overwhelmingly, I thought you were going to point to a nation state. I think this nation state is doing it. Like the Doge thing didn't even come to mind for me. And I'm like, man, I'll be damned if that's not a great point. You know what I mean? Like, there is definitely a lot of disgruntled people out there.
Yeah, a lot. Like, because he says in here, while the increase has been noticeable, the cause is not yet known. Yeah, you're going to figure it out. And once you start to attribute this to certain people, you're going to figure out, like, oh, they worked here, they worked there, right? It's a bunch of disgruntled ex-employees, and that's what I believe. Like, I could be wrong. Like, maybe a nation state did infiltrate really heavily, but then I would also attribute that to the mass layoffs, right? Like, who was watching? Who was on watch? Like, oh, it should have been this team. Why was this team not paying attention? Oh, because they don't work here anymore, right? So either way, I think it's because of the Doge cuts. Not that I'm being bitter or anything like that, but it's just the timing makes sense. So either it's because we let down our guard, or because people are pissed and they're dropping dimes left and right. So either way, you caused the issue with the mass layoffs. So there it is, right? Hire me to be your analyst. I can figure it out real fast. But hopefully this faucet turns off, right? These people should be losing access. They shouldn't be able to get into systems and things of that nature. Again, your offboarding and termination procedures, I just don't think we're so hot. So this is my 2 cents. We'll come back to it. We'll circle back around probably end of the year, though. They'll have a little bit more information and arrests. I can see a bunch of people getting put in jail for dropping this information on the interwebs or trying to sell it to the bad guys. You used to always go through that training, right? The cyber awareness training. You would never guess the people who sell this information. It'd be like people who should definitely know better, right? They're like, oh, this chief of this service and his family was selling information to the Russians. You're like, why?
But to be fair, right? So like anytime we think insider threat, we always think malicious, right? But like you can be an accidental insider threat as well, right? The access you may have and the information you may know, if it's inadvertently put out there, right, or if it's not intentional, right, or state actors, a different nation state has not approached you, you can be an accidental insider threat. Like it's one of the things we go through in our training, right? I'm talking about it, but yeah, the cyber awareness thing, like we've been seeing that. If you've had access to certain networks in the DoD, you've been doing that every year for several years, right? So yeah, it's not new.
Yeah. We'll see. We'll see what next year looks like. Like they'll do the stats for 2025, which is a remarkable year for many different reasons. And we'll be like, oh man, we need to tighten it up. So I can see 2026 being a year of better cyber hygiene because of all of this nonsense, all of this chaos that's ensuing right now. Definitely continue to check us out throughout the week. So again, Monday, Tuesday are topics, Wednesday discussion, Thursdays Ask Us SSP. And then Fridays, everything else, movies, books, games, all that cool stuff. You hit us up by the website to go by our name. You can go directly to theothersideofthefirewall.com or ramcyber.io to catch all of our content, whether it be on the radio, public access, things of that nature, as well as your podcast platforms of choice. And then you can hit me up personally. I'm at RY Security Guy. That's RY Security Guy. You can find me on LinkedIn primarily. Yeah, send me a message. Let me know. Give me some feedback, things of that nature. Stay safe. Stay secure.